Story appears ordinary till you see the core side of it.
And what you're looking for is the story behind the news.
We bring it to you from Lagos, the commercial capital of Nigeria.
Giving you all sides and political stories round the clock.
Every detail from the start line to the final whistle.
CoreTV News, expanding your view.
This is CoreTV News with me, Femi Oguntoye. Cameroon's army says some 480 Nigerian soldiers have fled into the country following fierce fighting with Boko Haram militants. Cameroon's army spokesman, Dede Bakjek, says the soldiers have been disarmed and are being accommodated in schools. Clashes are said to be continuing in the border town of Gamborongala in Borno State. Boko Haram on Sunday released a video in which it said it had established an Islamic State in the towns and villages it controls in northeastern Nigeria. Meanwhile, the defense authorities in the related issue explained that the Nigerian troops crossed over to the Cameroonian side of the border during the battle with the insurgents while making a tactical maneuver. A statement on the official website of the Nigerian military stated that the Nigerian troops had to submit their weapons to the Cameroonian authorities to show that they were not on any offensive against the country, in line with standard practice. It added that the troops were on their way to Nigeria after the matter was sorted out by the authorities of both countries. The statement added that it was wrong to describe the presence of the soldiers in Cameroon as defection in view of discussions between the military leaderships of Nigeria and Cameroon and contacts made with the soldiers about their safety. The statement added that troops encountered a group of insurgents who were attempting to enter the country through Gamborongala in a gun battle and were still in pursuit of them. The Christian Association of Nigeria is not comfortable with Boko Haram's recent declaration of an Islamic Caliphate in northeast Nigeria. It describes the situation as serious and wants the federal government to stop treating the insurgents with kid gloves. Secretary General of the association, Musa Ashake, told journalists in Abuja that immediate action is needed to reclaim the annexed territories.
The umbrella body of Christians in Nigeria has always been opposed to Boko Haram and had been in the forefront of efforts to have it designated as a terrorist group. That was long before the federal government and the U.S. authorities made that move. And now that the insurgents claimed to have seized a part of Nigeria, Khan says its fears have been proved right.
Khan has been crying out. You have listened to Khan president. He has spoken over and over. Some have misunderstood him. But all that the Khan president has said all over the years has now come to be true. You know, he did not come out to say, I'm a prophet, but he warned, he advised. He said, we are not heading the right direction. This thing is not going to be good for us. So the words are there, it has been fulfilled.
It is convinced that the government could stop the insurgents if it shows some seriousness.
I think the federal government should wake up. Nigerians are tired and we're getting to a point where these bloodsuckers are trying to claim that there are some people that they are above the law. They are not above the law. I ask the federal government, I request, I plead, enough of the bloodshed.
Khan also had a piece of advice for Nigerian leaders and people in government.
And I can also quote at this very moment a German pastor, Pastor Martin Nuela, who supported Hitler when he was doing those things and never spoke. But when he was about to speak, it was late. Many people have been killed. And that's why he wrote the famous poem that he said, when they came for the industrialists, I did not speak out because I was not an industrialist. When they came for the socialists, I did not speak out because I was not a socialist. When they came for the Jews, I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. But when they came for me, there was nobody left to speak for me. Let that message go to our leaders in Nigeria.
For now, the Christian body says it is concerned about the fate of Nigerians living in the area designated as Islamic Caliphate who may not support Boko Haram's ideology.
Residents of the Federal Capital Territory also want the government to take every necessary steps to reclaim parts of the country designated by Boko Haram as Islamic Caliphate. Some of them believe that the insurgents would have long been defeated if the people in the affected areas provided adequate and prompt information to security agencies. Paul Samuel has more from the street of Abuja.
After recent incursion into some parts of Borno State, Boko Haram at the weekend declared that it has set up an Islamic caliphate in Goza. There is an anger on the streets of Abuja, even though a cross-section of Nigerians have continued to condemn what they described as an empty threat to the unity of the country. This man says nothing will split the country as Nigeria is bigger than any terrorist group.
But I don't think that will be possible in Nigeria. As we all know, over the years, Nigeria has been an entity. So no group or no religion, no set of people can just emanate from somewhere, from nowhere, and say they want to have this country divided. It's not possible. Nigeria is one, as we all know. To some extent, government is actually doing enough. And if you have enemies, and the enemy want to make sure that what you are doing, you want to make sure people are seeing nothing from what you are doing. It's like trying to frustrate your effort. So I want government to be courageous and to continue the very way they are doing.
For this youth corps member, it is not possible for Boko Haram to take over any parts of the country.
Yes, I heard of it. I don't know. They are just too stupid, because how can they have their own country? It's not it at all. They are insane. Okay. They are insane. And if government can put a stop to that, it's very good, because their power should not overshadow us. We should overshadow them. Okay. Because few people cannot just stand up and overshadow so millions of people. It doesn't worth it.
Until recently, Nigeria had been largely peaceful, and this young man believes that it's time for the citizens and the leadership to put the country first.
We allow this problem to reach up to this level. I think it's because of negligence. It's time for everyone to come together so that we're able to fight this thing to a standstill. Nigeria, over the years, we are not known to be this. I mean, it's so surprising that these have reached up to this level. And if nothing is being done about it, these guys will likely advance to another level.
For many Abuja residents, the Boko Haram insurgency has entered a new phase with the declaration of an Islamic caliphate. They now want to see decisive step from the government to finally put an end to the long-drawn insurgency. Pius Samuel, CoreTV News, Abuja.
The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has refused to extend the deadline for the second phase of the continuous voter registration. This is in spite of agitations in some quarters for extension of the days set aside for the exercise in the FCT and 11 other states. INEC says in a statement by its spokesman Kayode Idowu that it's logistically impossible to extend this phase of the exercise beyond the August 25 deadline. The Commission, however, plans to set up registration points soon at its local government area offices where people who are yet to register can go. INEC also claimed that people bent on engaging in multiple registrations were largely responsible for the crowd clusters at the registration points for continuous voter registration. You're watching CoreTV News on the Hour. We'll take a break and I'll be back with more stories. Stay with us.
You can now watch CoreTV News live from anywhere in the world on our website www.coretvnews.com. Click on Live TV on our website and watch us live.
And welcome to CoreTV Primetime News.
To follow us on Twitter, click on Twitter icon on our website. On Facebook, click on the Facebook and YouTube to see all our previous news production. You can also watch us live on YouTube. Click CoreTV, leave a space, then News. CoreTV News, a 24-hour news station.
Welcome back. Doctors are back at work in Abuja, even though the government has not yet withdrawn the circular suspending residency training in federal hospitals. A visit to the National Hospital, however, showed that not all the doctors have resumed. The leadership of the Nigerian Medical Association, however, says the doctors have no reason to be absent from work.
We had immediate term, medium term and long term demands. So of the immediate and the medium term demands, most of them have been met satisfactorily, and that's why we're calling off this strike. We'll continue negotiation. We're suspending the strike, not calling it off. We'll continue negotiation with the government because that was part of the agreement. Now we're calling off because we are dealing with lives. So we'll start work, be in a suspension, and continue negotiation and hope that very soon all our demands would be met.
As usual, we started receiving some patients in National Hospital, and since the consultants and the other doctors, I talk about the house officers and medical officers are working, I'm sure normal services will resume. And of course, another thing we are talking about is the resident doctors, which you're all aware that the federal government has given a directive that the resident doctors' training is on suspension. I think it's part of what the enemy is looking at, that the government should at least reconsider this issue, since the national body of enemy has always been directives that they should all come back to work.
Well, doctors at the Ladoke Akitola University Teaching Hospital in Oshogbo warned that they could rescind their decision to resume work if the conditions agreed upon are not met by the federal government. Rashid reports that activities have picked up at the hospital, but the doctor's warning at this time is too cold for comfort.
For almost 2 months, while Nigerian Medical Association strike lasted, this bubbling doctor's lounge of the Lautech Teaching Hospital was a shadow of itself. The story has, however, changed since the announcement of the suspension of the strike. Chairman of Medical and Dental Consultant Association of Nigeria in Lautech, Adebayo Kozim, says the doctors are set to swing to action following the suspension of the strike.
In Lautech Teachers, like you have seen, as you can see a lot of vehicular and people moving up and down, which shows that we are ready to obey the directive of our national body, which is the NMA. And each head of department is meeting with their staff to work out a modality in which there will be immediate takeover of active health delivery to the populace.
One of the interesting drama which ensued during the strike was the suspension of residency program and sack of resident doctors, which was later denied by the federal government. The resident doctors in Lautech say even though they are back to work, but they still have issues to grind with the federal government regarding the residency program.
Duty post and work is going on. According to the Minister of Health yesterday, he said within 24 hours, the suspension on residency program will be lifted, and the national president of NME also talked in the press interview yesterday. He said within 24 hours it will be addressed. So we are hoping to get a positive response from the federal government as said by the Senate President.
The doctors are, however, sending a strong warning to the federal government over the terms reached in suspension of the strike.
We won't just jump at go and resume, because at this era when we're talking about a lot of fear of Ebola in our country, in which this option is also not immune to an attack, which we pray it will not happen, because we need to prepare for it.
It's just a grammatical expression, suspension. That means it's conditional. If they're able to meet that condition, well, it becomes permanent. Otherwise, well, it's like arguing a strike. You can still go back and just commence the strike again, which I hope I will not get to that extent again.
The reality on ground at the moment is that Nigerians can now heave a sigh of relief and strongly hope that this will be the last strike to be experienced in the health sector. Rashid, CoreTV News, Oshogbo.
The story is not at all different in Lagos as doctors resumed work, but with a call to the federal government to keep its side of the bargain. Anita Fatuji has more in this report.
Chairman of the Lagos branch of the Nigerian Medical Association says though they are relieved to be back at work, the federal government should live up to expectation and reverse the dismissal of 16,000 doctors.
The strike action has been suspended, not called off really, in the sense that the Senate President, General David Mark, retired, actually, stood as a guarantor, and of course, saying that, well, we should trust the federal government, that the sack of the 16,000 resident doctors will be reversed. And also appealing on the state of the health situation, the issue of Ebola and all that. Well, of course, we believe that the government will keep their own part of the agreement, okay, and get the resident doctors reinstated, because that had not been done as at the time that the strike was suspended. And you also know that there's no way the teaching hospitals will run without these residents.
NME has suspended the strike, there's no doubt about that. And we expect work, and even if we suspend the strike, work, it takes some time before you reach, it's a momentum you build gradually. And but the teaching hospitals are peculiar. If you go to a general hospital now, before the end of today, you can see that most of their work will have been restored properly. But teaching hospital is peculiar. Teaching hospital cannot function without resident doctors. You see, there can be skeletal services. Consultant can work with house officers, rendering some skeletal services. But the bulk of the doctors in the teaching hospital are the resident doctors. So when you have sacked this bulk, how do you want the work to go on now? It's just common logic.
For his part, the Lagos NMA Publicity Secretary Ibrahim Ogunbi wants the federal government to formalize all agreements reached with the doctors in order to save healthcare delivery in Nigeria.
We are so sure that they will be called back. And in fact, they are not calling back means that there will be no healthcare delivery in Nigeria, because as I've said, this is the backbone of the country's healthcare delivery.
They beseech the federal government to provide adequate equipment and funding for healthcare practitioners in order to curb the deadly Ebola virus. Anita Fatunji, CoreTV News, Lagos.
One of the confirmed Ebola patients in Nigeria is ready to be discharged any moment from now. The health authorities said the patient would be allowed to leave the isolation ward after necessary protocols. If eventually discharged, it would bring the number of patients successfully treated to 6. Also, the Ministry of Health has reviewed the number of confirmed cases in Nigeria from 14 to 13. Its explanation is that the 14th case initially announced as positive turned out to be false. It, however, added that the number of deaths due to Ebola virus, including the index case, remains 5. Nigeria has launched what government officials say is the biggest silo in Africa. The silo is located in Kwali, in the outskirts of Abuja, and has a 100,000-ton capacity. Vice President Namadi Sambo represented President Goodluck Jonathan at the inauguration ceremony and assured Nigerians that the administration is committed to ensuring food security. For his part, Minister of Agriculture, Akinwumi Adesina, says 11 other silos are under construction nationwide.
Join you all in this occasion of the commissioning of the 100,000 metric ton silo at Sheda, Federal Capital Territory, and the flag off of the agricultural equipment hiring centers in Nigeria. Our country has huge agricultural potentials. But talking about those potentials is not enough. We are working very hard to unlock those potentials to make agriculture a business that will create wealth for millions of Nigerians. I tasked the Minister of Agriculture to drive the process to ensure that we meet the goal, and in doing so, also modernize our agricultural system. I'm very pleased that the agricultural transformation agenda is working well and achieving great strides in our drive to turn Nigeria into a food self-sufficient country.
Today, as you are commissioning the largest silo in West Africa, it's another indication of tremendous leadership. And as we are flagging off a fully private sector-driven mechanization program, It's another first in Africa. One can only imagine if our farmers could produce an additional 21 million metric tons of food just between 2012 and 2014 without tractors and mechanized equipment. They will definitely feed the world if they have a fully mechanized agricultural system.
Mastar is coming up shortly on the news after this break. Don't go away.
Glad to have you join us another edition of The Political Arena, the most detailed and incisive political show.
If you are a sitting governor and the opposition is able to stomach structure against you, that means you are wicked to the people.
Give me 20 minutes to move or they will shoot me.
He has no chance for survival. If he likes himself, this is the best time to get out before he perishes.
The PDP as a ruling party has failed.
So anybody who thinks that government will fold his hands and allow miscreants to take over the streets of Osun State and cause havoc is deceiving himself.
The good, bad, ugly, and beautiful sides of the Nigerian political system. Join me every Sunday at 9:15 p.m. on CoreTV News.
And other stories outside Nigeria, Israeli airstrikes have continued on the Palestinian territory of Gaza in continuation of what the Prime Minister called Operation Protective Edge in response to rocket fire from the Islamic militants in the territory. 8 people were killed at Gaza on Monday just as efforts continue by Egypt to find a truce that will help in opening of border crossings at Erez and Keres Shalom for humanitarian and which Israel says it's willing to increase. The Rafah, according to Yaakov Perry, the Israeli science minister, is down to Egypt, which controls the crossing. While all the frantic efforts aimed at bringing peace to the war-ravaged territory continues, residents continue to count their losses for the death of a 14-year-old boy from wounds sustained earlier, while 8 others also died and buildings destroyed. Ahmad Al-Dabos, owner of one of the destroyed buildings in the territory, expressed surprise in the destruction of his family, wondering why he deserves that fate. As the crisis in Gaza continues with Israeli airstrikes and rocket fire from militants in the territory, Palestinians in Gaza have rallied for peace. The rally, led by Khalid al-Khattab of the Palestinian Fida Party, is to garner support for peace negotiations, which are to put in place a truce, which collapsed on the 19th of August. The truce deal, which was negotiated by Egyptian President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi, collapsed, and moves are on to revive it as negotiators from Israel and Hamas are expected to Cairo to restart talks. The talks, which are aimed at putting in place a comprehensive peace agreement, have been confirmed by Hamas spokesman Sami Abu Zuri and Islamic Jihad spokesman Dawood Siab, both of whom say it's dependent on Palestinian demands being met. There was no immediate response from the spokesman of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, Mark Regev. And that wraps it on CoreTV News this hour. Join us again at the top of the hour. I am Nifemi Oguntoye. Thanks for being there.